saw the video, of course, I was angered.
The video motivated 17-year-old high school senior Chanice Lee to call for an urgent meeting of Black Lives Matter Broward.
You know, nothing is going to happen if I don't effectively channel my anger into action.
Hi, I'm Chanice Lee, and I am the author of Young Revolutionary, A Teen's Guide to Activism.
Black Girls Rock and Coca-Cola are proud to share the honor of celebrating Chanice Lee. As a 16-year-old activist, author, speaker, blogger, she unapologetically dares to change the world by serving as a UN Foundation ambassador for Girls Up, an organization dedicated to helping women worldwide find their voice. Her first book, Young Revolutionary, The Teen's Guide to Activism, acts as a blueprint for other Black teens to follow in her footsteps and become activists in their own right. Chanice Lee, never stop owning your voice. You rock.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for National Women's History Month. I am here today with the lovely Chanice McClover-Lee, and we'll be discussing what it is to be a woman and the new millennium and the cultural climate that we have today. She'll introduce herself for you guys, and then we'll have a conversation about her book, documentary. She's a newly college student, and all things that we know the next generation of women to be. So from the Pompano Beach Cultural Center, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm looking forward to the conversation today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So introduce yourself for us.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Chanice McClover-Lee. I'm 18. I'm a community organizer, writer, and changemaker from Fort Lauderdale, but I currently live in the DC area because I'm a Howard student. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Shout out to HBCUs out there. Congratulations on Howard.
Thank you.
How is the weather?
It's cold. It's like 30 degrees outside.
She's like, it's cold. I'm a Florida girl. Well, hopefully you'll get used to it in the dust quickly. So let's just get right into it. So we called this program Chanice Lee, Young Revolutionary. So I think it's only right that we start there. Talk to me about the book, about the documentary, and exactly what do you mean when you call yourself a young revolutionary?
Mm-hmm. So Young Revolutionary was an idea that I had when I first started getting into community organizing and activism and just social justice work in general. I was young, I was around 14, and I just started going to different events in our community and getting involved with different organizations. And in those spaces, I always noticed that I would typically be the youngest person or the only young person in general. And I knew that the issues that were important to me, I knew that there had to be other young people who wanted to make a difference but didn't know where or how to get started. So I just kind of, figured, what if I created some type of guide for young people, other teenagers that they could utilize to figure out, okay, this is how I identify an issue in my community, and these are the specific steps that I take to solve that issue or address it or mobilize other people to even, care about the same thing. And so originally I had a blog and I was just going to write a quick article, but once I started writing, I realized that what I wanted to say and the information that I wanted to give to other young people was just too much to fit into one blog post and just send it as like, a link. So I realized, okay, I'll turn it into an ebook that I can, just let people download. But then as I started writing more, I realized that I wanted this to be something tangible. I wanted it to be something that other young people could touch and feel and see and know that, the sky, well, really, there is no limit. Like, even if you are a 14-year-old choosing to write a book, I wanted it to be something that you could, physically touch and hold and see in real life. And so I started writing in September of 2017, and I said, I want to finish this book by the end of the year. And so I finished by December 31st of the same year. And it came out on March 1st of the next year. And since then, it's traveled all over the world. It's in classrooms.
Very interesting. I think that's amazing. I mean, at 14, I was doing stuff, but I wasn't writing no guides to the revolution at 14. So I think that's amazing to watch it go from something, I guess, a small, minute idea to something that's worldwide and literally changing the space for our young people, for our young people that are going to be the change makers of the future. So I think that's amazing. So you're an artist. You are a writer and soon to be director of your documentary. Tell me how you use the arts to be the catalyst for the changes you want to see, and how it helps you. I can imagine it kind of gets heavy sometimes, right? So how the arts is the catalyst for the change, but also how it helps therapeutically as well.
I definitely think that art is a necessary part of any social movement, and I never even really considered myself to be an artist, although I am a writer, and writing has always been something that I've been passionate about, and it's been my creative outlet. But for some reason I just never realized I am someone who uses art as a tool for social change through the medium of writing and soon filmmaking. So in regards to Young Revolutionary, the documentary, that was a project that I started 2019, and it was my plan to finish it in 2020, but that did not happen. So now so now I'm just kind of figuring out when it's how exactly I can make it happen now during these times. But the goal of Young Revolutionary, the documentary, was to highlight different youth of color-led organizations across the country that are doing necessary and important work in their communities that many people may not know about. And so that is currently still in progress, just figuring out how exactly I have to restructure everything just based on the way that the world is now. And in terms of being a writer, I've always just liked writing since I was young. It was just something that I just stuck to, and I wasn't always someone who was able to speak and express the way that I feel easily, so I always just turned to writing. And since then, that has just been a part of me. I write, I know I've written nonfiction because that's what Young Revolutionary is, but I truly want to write fiction, tap into my creative aspect, not just writing information-based things. So yes.
I totally get it. And you made a good point, because so many times we look at art. When we think about artists, I think most people gravitate to visual artists, right? People who can draw, people who can do sculptures and those types of things. But we forget that art is literally the fabric of who we are. We are creators, right? We were created to create things, whether it's art or creating peace and tranquility in our homes or fighting for justice on the streets. I think it's all art forms because we're creating something that was not there before. So you are most certainly an artist in various forms, but I do agree that most people, when they think about art, it goes straight to visual arts, and not necessarily the writing, and even playwrights and directors and filmmakers and photographers and all of those people who contribute to the art movement. And you said something else. I don't think there's ever been a major movement in the African-American community without art, whether it's through music, Marvin Gaye, what's going on, whether it's through Langston Hughes and the Harlem Renaissance movement. So many people create what I like to call soundtracks of movements. And whether that's through music or books or poetry or literary world. So don't ever forget that you are definitely an artist, and you have so much to give in terms of tapping into that creative space that lends itself to fiction writing and things like that. I think I want to talk about how you feel about the future of women's rights, particularly those in the African-American community and women of color. Where do you see yourself in that movement? And how can we all be a part of it?
Well, first and foremost, whenever I'm in any space and I'm, speaking to any people, I'm always very open about the fact that I do this work because Black women and girls are always at the center of envisioning a better world, because, I'm a young Black woman. Like, I can't see the world in the lens of any other type of woman, although, I may be advocating for them. Like, I can only live my experience and do, any type of social change work from the lens of a young Black woman. And that is who is at the forefront of everything that I do, just because I recognize that Black women and girls have always had so many different types of systems of oppressions coming at us. Like, it could be, racism, and then we have to deal with misogyny and patriarchy just for our identities as being a woman. And then you couple that with being Black and a woman. And so it's kind of like you have so many different swords pointing at you when you're just trying to survive and live freely, like many of us are. And so I think that is why I always just center Black women and girls at the center of my work, because I strongly believe that when Black women and girls are free, then everyone else is free. Because
Absolutely.
if you put, if the most marginalized and oppressed groups of people have freedom, then everyone else can be free. So that's why you have to focus on, the people who are the most directly impacted.
I think we see that too when you talk about people like Stacey Abrams, who was literally able to mobilize an entire state to blue.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and it doesn't matter what side of the coin you fall on. I'm an independent voter, but to see this Black woman infuse such passion and change within an entire state was such an amazing thing to write. And our vice president, stepping into her role. And we're seeing Black women at the forefront of so many things, but I think historically, we have been in the forefront of so many things. And I think women, just like sometimes we forget what kind of art makes you an artist, we forget that the mothers are important, the people who keep the homes, the people who had fed and clothed those who were on the front line, the safe houses that were ran by women, and those type of things, particularly women of color and Black women, have always been on the forefront of revolution and sparking a change. And it's because, like you say, we need it, because we've been so represented most times that we are often the spark to our own change and the things we want to see.
Yes.
So what's next for you? You're at Howard, you have this amazing book. You won the Mad Girl Award for Black Girls Rock. So many incredible things. What's next?
Well, now I'm actually taking a break from school. So Howard is not open right now. Everything is completely online. And because I started so far ahead, I graduate high school with my associate's degree. So I didn't want to do my first year completely online. So hopefully, I can go back on campus in the fall. So right now, until then, I'm just kind of, figuring out what exactly I will be doing until I have to go back to campus and school in August. And so I'm probably going to start writing another book. I don't know, what exactly it will be yet, but it will definitely be a young adult fiction book. It'll be my first novel. What else? Yeah, I'm just kind of, figuring out, like, now I have an opportunity to just figure out what exactly it is I want to do during this, this break that I have from school. And yeah, after school, I want to go to law school. I want to be a civil rights attorney, and I still want to, be a writer as well. I don't envision myself being limited to one career, but I definitely know that I want to kind of step from the role of, like, activist and community organizer and become someone who is aware of, the other side of the system. Like whenever you have social movements, you always need someone who is, aware of all the legal workings and ins and outs of how to actually get things done on a systemic level and like a legal level to actually make that change permanent. And so, yeah, I want to go into civil rights law after law school. And yeah, that's kind of just what I'm doing right now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I could totally see you do that. We definitely need more Black women in those positions and more Black people in general. And, women, we're incredible. We single-handedly populate the world, and then we single-handedly get it in order. That's kind of how it works. So I think we'll close with any advice to a young person that may be watching, that's not sure how they can help, that's not sure what their voice is in the movement, that may be stifled. What do you say to them?
I would definitely say the first step is just really identifying what it is you're passionate about and, what changes you want to see, and know that, no change is too big or too small. If it's important to you, then you should take the steps to working towards creating the change that you want to see, because I know young people oftentimes feel like we have the weight on the world because people always think, oh, young people are going to save the world, and that's literally what's happening every day. But a lot of times young people are, there are a lot of young people who want to do things but don't know where or how to get started, or they feel like, they can't because of how old they are or because of whatever other life circumstances. And I think the biggest advice I can give is to just continue, just, keep going for it, just keep fighting, because so many different movements, like I mentioned, can't happen without young people. It can't happen without the people who are going to be running the world. It can't happen without, the fresh young ideas that young people often bring to the table. So that is my best advice. Just, keep going for it, and there's really nothing that can stop you.
Great. And I know I said that was my last thing, but it brought me to thinking about your work in voting and getting young people involved in voting, and young people being the catalyst of the changes we've seen, the turnouts we've seen. My niece, this is her first election voting, and we made sure she got out there and she understood what was happening. I know why you thought it was important to get young people mobilized to the polls. Talk about for a second your work in that area.
Mm-hmm. So I've always been very open that I don't believe in voting as like the highest form of social change, but I think voting is a necessary tool to implement changes on, a level higher than grassroots organizing or doing things on a community level. Like sometimes, just the way that this system is set up, we have to actually have the things that we want to see change turn into a bill or a law in our, state governments and in our national governments. And so when it comes to voting, I've always been very transparent about the fact that I know that young people, we're oftentimes told, you need to go vote, you need to go vote, you need to register to vote. But a lot of people don't even understand, why. Like you're telling, you can, tell a young person you need to do this, but when you're young, you want to know why. Like, why do I need to go and do that? And so that is just my main focus, is just making sure I'm not just going to go and tell other young people that they need to vote or they need to register to vote. I'm going to explain, this is a process. When you do this, this happens, and you're electing this person and they're representing you. And now we have the power to make things a bit easier on the issues that we're advocating for to actually become, a legitimate change in our state government. So I'm just someone who focuses on making sure that young people know what voting is. I think I focus more so on making voting accessible to young people and the process of voting, rather than just saying, go vote. Like actually taking the time to explain the process, how it works, helping people get registered, explaining how you do candidate research, explaining, what happens if you do choose to vote, what happens if you don't choose to vote. Like just, really making sure that I'm the one who takes it a bit further rather than just saying, go vote, because I saw a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not how you get it done. And I think it's important. I think I'm on the same line. I tell people, whether you vote or don't vote, what's important to me is having the information, having the appropriate information, the honest information, the knowledge to make the informed decision to participate. And whether it's state, local, or national level, some people vote really heavily in their cities and their county elections, but are missing in the national elections. And I think knowing the difference between the two and how those three, local, state, and national level, affect us as a whole and as a community and as a person, definitely is what is going to drive an increase in young people voting and believing in the system that is honestly just very flawed and has not been very giving to us as Black people, right? So I think that work is very important. If you're watching, tell us how to find you, Chanice. Tell us where we can look you up, your Instagram handles, how we can find the book.
I'm on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at my name at Chanice A. Lee. Is just my my full name. And my website is chanicelee.com.
Perfect. And we can book from the website?
Yes, you can purchase Young Revolutionary on my website, chanicelee.com, and it's also available on Amazon.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much from the City of Pompano Beach Cultural Affairs Department for joining us for this wonderful interview. I know personally, I know you're taking a break. That might be a good thing to, get your feet up underneath you. Again, congratulations on all your success. Thank you for being the difference, young woman. Thank you for using your gifts and talents to speak for people who otherwise may not be heard. And thank you just for being awesome at such a young age. All righty. Thank you.
And that quote just stuck with me all throughout writing, because if you look at any type of social movement that has ever occurred in the history, even what's happening now, young people are always at the forefront, because it's just something about being young and seeing the possibilities of what the world can be.